are live Facebook. We are live today on Facebook. So we're going to go into our work session, which is in preparation for our meeting on May the 21st of next week. So I've been pretty excited about this. This is, if you recall, our security camera discussions of a few months ago, when we were unable to go the route that was originally planned. I asked both our IT director, Mr. Clements, and the chief to get together and see where there might be some opportunities for us to look at how the city would do this. And as it was discussed, create a situation for the entire absorption of the cost to be through the city's budget. So ad valorem taxes, whatever that would take. And so we spread the burden, as we were talking about. So the chief looked at all the locations that he thought would be appropriate for us to have cameras, and Mr. Clements looked at replacements, maintenance, and costs associated with it, and they, in preparation for giving y'all as much information as possible, put together a program. And Vice Mayor, what are you doing back there against the wall, sir? would you be kind enough to join us at the table?
The reason I see it here, if you don't mind.
You were visiting with, now Mr. Latimer?
Can he join us at the table?
No, that's just.
Come join us. Come join us, please.
You take your seat at the table.
Further requests?
I appreciate it.
And we will visit after this event, so.
We're good.
All right, and we need to make sure, would you slide him an agenda, et cetera, over
I got it.
please? Oh, you got one? Okay, all right, good. In that case, I'm going to turn it over to the chief, and he and Joel are going to kind of tag team and give us a good idea of where, how many cameras, where they needed to be, how much it will cost, and that sort of thing, so we can prepare for our upcoming budget year. Chief, please.
Mayor, Honorable Vice Mayor, Honorable Board members, thank you for having me this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Ballard, and I have the honor and pleasure of serving as Chief of Police for the Starkville Police Department. As the slide says, community safety is our highest priority. Our officers believe that everyone deserves the right to feel safe where they work, live, learn, play, and worship. We also believe that it's going to take a forward-leaning department, one who's deeply dedicated to the protection of the Constitution to change the world for a better place. This is who we are as a department. This is our DNA. We can't even begin this discussions without first talking about CALIA. Here's the reason why. It is a process that forces us to talk to leaders within our profession as well as leaders in other industries to embrace emerging technologies, strategic advancements, and research. It also has a term called organizational analytics. How do we get better in doing our job? And it's a key reason why we're here. And the challenge for me today is to be able to advocate for, obviously, a stronger, comprehensive security plan for the citizens of Starkville. And it's going to be based off of our organizational analytics. So what you see in today in America, when you turn on the news tonight, when you turn on the news tomorrow night, when you turn on the news for the future, or you can go back and Google and look for this past week. Violence in America is very real. Violence in our area is very real. And many agencies are trying to do traditional policing models. We've touched on this before. We'll touch on it again. They'll do saturation patrols. They'll do specialized details. It is extremely labor intensive. It is a traditional model, and it's one that is often expecting our officers to be in the right place at the right time with the right information. Statistically, that's hard to do unless they have the right tools. So you'll start to see across our nation more and more advocacy of different types of real-time intelligence centers or real-time crime centers. They're all the same. And what it's doing is it's taking the concepts of embracing technologies and placing these technologies in an easier to operate manner with specialized personnel. This, of course, is our own Starkville real-time intelligence center. It's much smaller than what you see other cities do, but everything is there for us to expand. And for those of you that have taken your time to come by, thank you for that. And if you haven't had an opportunity to visit our real-time intelligence center, please do so. It is definitely can show or demonstrate and do a much better job of demonstrating the importance of its capabilities than what I can here this time with you. Try to look for a lot of analogies to break this down when we're talking to the general citizens on the street. It's simple. This is about effective tools. A lumberjack with an axe is highly based upon the lumberjack skill. It's labor intensive and it's not nearly as effective. You change the lumberjack, you give them a tool, they're able to be a lot more efficient. And for the board members, efficiency means cost savings. And I hope to be able to deliver that today when I'm talking about the security plan of what we have. There's a lot of misunderstandings with technology. The same way when maybe factory owners are going in and updating factory lines, the concerns were that it would replace the workers. Technology can't replace the officer. It's going to always need a face to be able to prevent the crime, to relate to the victim, to be able to process the evidence, to testify, to get the job done. However, again, it is a powerful tool. So we're going to go over a few videos here and I'll demonstrate, but this is probably some of the most important reasons of why these agencies are in the lead front. Now I'll consider Oxford one of them, Tupelo one of them. They're starting to develop. They've sent crews down here to look at what we're doing. We've been watching for a long time what they're doing. And there's so many more nationally, but this is the reason why. First of all, it's tough to measure deterring criminal activity. I've had conversations with some of you in other communities and we've talked to other law enforcement, and that is working for us right now because a lot of our criminal element doesn't understand the technology that we're applying, and they know we're pretty effective at following up, using that information, and doing apprehension. And as the Vice Mayor and I talk about often, apprehension accountability is the key. And when you have crime will beget crime. If you end crime, or at least are able to apprehend it quickly, it slows it down. And that's where we are. Situational awareness, I got a video that I'll show you the back of it, and then with it. Obviously, the given is identification of persons involved, evidence collection, but also cost effectiveness. My executive assistant, Carol, has a form she's about to hand out, and it's going to show two different revenue pieces. And I've selected two different things that were kind of surprising in our presentation. Obviously, cameras can be applicable to the thousands of different crimes that are out there, but I chose two very common ones to start with. And it's not even a crime, it's mainly a civil matter, but still a distress to our citizens. First and foremost, wrecks. In 2023, we worked 893 wrecks. That's not including private parking lot wrecks. So we're well over 1,000. That's a lot of liability. So when we talked about cameras at intersections to our citizens and got feedback, insurance agents were a strong lean in, parents of teenagers were the strongest lean in that we had on feedback. And the reason why, it's simple. In today's society, beyond when you get the call, you have the first concern, is anybody okay? Yes, everybody's okay. The second concern is, are they going to stay on scene? And in today's liable world, are they going to tell the truth, right? And in a standard wreck like that, it happened within a split second, right? And let me go back and hit one more time on this. You've got a failure to right of way there, but also take a look at the speeds of the second one that anyone would miss, right? A little different when you look at it. The camera was able to show you things that no one else saw because they weren't able to be there. The reason why you get this handout on the second part is many times our cameras are in locations where we're not. Late at night, people are often under the influence of alcohol or other narcotics. And when they do damage, sometimes it's pretty severe. And ladies and gentlemen, they will not remain behind to be able to say that they did it. They will leave the scene as we have in the case here. No pursuit, not racing. This is an individual that was under the influence and very, very fortunate to be alive. Now, from a city leadership standpoint, if we're unable to prosecute, if we're unable to effectively apprehend the individual involved, what you have in that sheet one is the cost of what it costs the taxpayers. That's the restitution that was charged. So when I'm talking about cost effectiveness in a new way of looking at traditional policing versus embracing technology, our community pays for this. That's a damage to a light pole, that's a damage to lights, and notice the lack of the other individuals that called 911. Maybe they too were under the influence or did not want to be bothered. Who knows in a world that we live in? But you will find it somewhat surprising that the hazard lights are on. It's obviously an indication that it's a pretty bad wreck, and people will drive on. It was several moments before we were able to receive a 911 call. Now, Mayor, Vice Mayor, board members, I'm going to step over here to get these numbers correct on the next slide. When we go into our disturbances, right, when discussing disturbances, I was really surprised at how many we dealt with. In 2023, we experienced 260 domestics, 87 disturbances of a business, 575 general disturbances, and 151 fights. Now, under those general disturbances, that's me raising my voice. It's about to get kind of rough and somebody's calling 911, okay? But those are a lot of disturbances and fights in progress. Think about it. We've only got 365 days a year. It's Friday. Our officers are getting ready to roll to these disturbances and these fights, right? This is going to be a video that we took. This is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of when the cameras are there, but we're not monitoring the camera. And what I'm advocating for, we need more of a lean in to be proactive and have the personnel to monitor the cameras. You're going to see lack of officer awareness. You're going to see the witness challenge where people either, one, don't want to go for it because it takes so long to go for a trial now. If it's significant, 2-3 years easily before we're going to trial, right? And or they didn't see what happened, and or they are closely associated to the other individual. This is going to be a disturbance that took place where an individual obviously had some type of relationship breaking apart where the other party came in. And one of the things, if you would focus on the one female that got her hands behind her back coming at the individual. Well, in that in itself, this is not significant until she turns on the other young lady. But when she does, think about what that other young lady is able to remember in this fight. And Brandon, I don't know if you're in the ability to hit stop as soon as she hits the pavement. So keep rolling. And right there, right? And what you see is stomping. You see the face hit the pavement, and this is, again, 151 fights that are not all this significant. But what I'm trying to say, a defense attorney, Vice Mayor, their job is to defend the client, correct?
That's correct.
The client many times lies, and if the victim cannot recall of what happened, the victim must be lying. That will be an avenue of attack for assistance. That is someone's daughter. Keep rolling. No, go back. My apologies. Just roll it and let everyone through. The social media advent is how we recognize this, and we did get a delayed call, but with the number of individuals, I'd like for you to also focus on this individual right here, phone in hand. I would bet that individual was about social media. That was not a 911 call. And as this fight develops and takes and carries on, again, the camera is able to capture it, but no one has called 911. And the reason why we picked this one in particular is my phone started getting notified after social media about what happened. We started pulling the calls and reports, and was a very delayed call where you have a lot of individuals involved. You will have security guards involved, as you see pulling the stick there. But what we don't have is the call in at 911. And then you will see a speeding up, delayed reaction of when the call comes in. The officers are completely unaware, as we sped it up, did not want to have the delay in time here, of the parties that are involved, and go and make contact with someone at the bin is what they were told. But I'm demonstrating this lack of officer awareness in a fight because it matters. The parties have left, the witnesses have left, we're showing up, going through the motions of a call without any kind of detail unless we're monitoring social media. But it kind of demonstrates, had we been more proactive on this, and the next video will show the difference, had we had someone on the camera systems, we're probably able to go ahead and deploy, get officers to the individuals that are involved and find out more in depth as to what was going on in an accurate manner. Because the last thing you want is for individuals to think that they can fight in our institutions, leave, and show back up again on a Friday and Saturday night and fight again. If all they have to do is fight and leave out, they will keep doing it. And from there, the officers walk over, and then you'll see them walking back to the car, but no one was, other than report writing, the parties walking behind were not involved. So let's go to the next video. All right, difference. Officer on patrol monitoring Arctic cameras is monitoring multiple locations at the same time. Go ahead and hit play. This is a domestic situation for a couple that have been, they're not married, but they've been dating for a significant amount of time. And watch the speed of response and the officer awareness once he realized he was judging between two different parking lots of where this might have occurred. And because he knew that he could see something was going on, they started fighting in the car here. He knew to check one, check the other. So on your left side of your screen, you're going to see the car come around with a lot more officer awareness into the situation.
And they're blurred out, Chief, because it's still
Pending,
ongoing,
we got
right?
one more pending, one is pled and one more pending, and that's why they're blurred out, whereas the other one, there was no criminal pending whatsoever. And so what I'm advocating for, again, with the situational awareness and the speed in which these officers are able to move in on it are remarkably different when our camera systems are being monitored and on point. Our officer awareness is where it needs to be. Our accuracy, both ended up getting charged, both ended up putting their hands on each other. They were still actively fighting in the truck a little bit there. And so that's how, before that event was even able to go past them leaving the scene, an arrest was made. So go ahead, next slide. All right, so we're going to pull up what we have, a little bit of background as to where we are, our thought process with it, and why we're advocating for closure of gap coverage. And Joel, you might be the one. Am I able to do this? Yes. Okay. So when we first began this project, back in 2018, 2019, and members of the media might remember, we got kind of rolled with a lot of violence in the Cotton District. And one of the things that's very apparent is the individuals, again, transitional criminals, they were not from here, and these were violent crimes, and they were student-based. So we worked with Robert Kemp, other entities in this area, and they were the lean in to say, yes, we're for embracing the technology. So our entertainment sections, where many times, as I showed you, after hours, people are inebriated, 1 o'clock in the morning, it's very important to get accuracy as to what happened for these economic venues. Then our second part of our strategy was to address, as we've talked about multiple times, high crime areas like Brooksville Gardens area. Some of the violence has been hit. These cameras have had remarkable effects. So you're going to see entertainment, you're going to see there. What we're advocating for now, as we start to develop and move a little bit further over, is to close, and right here, let me back this up. Right here, yeah, go ahead and show the scene. You see coverage, but I think most people are surprised. Look at our western side. Look at Highway 12. Look at our commercial areas that we've been advocating for coverage on. It's open. And we have a lot of activity that's taking place there. It was actually my predecessor's mother. When she became a victim to what we believe is very high-end con artist, we really assumed that we would be able to have some videos. And that's when they exposed our Achilles heel. We didn't. And that's why we're advocating for gap coverage, to go ahead and make a comprehensive plan to cover our western side of the city. We've taken on the annexation. We'd like to address in there, and we would like to go ahead and complete the loop of our city to where if you come to Starkville and you commit a crime and you leave our city, we will have a lead. We will have an answer for our communities. Go ahead and click the next one on the proposed. So in a lot of our proposed areas, you will see things like, that's obviously of importance, like the emergency room. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're shot, chances are you will have someone that will take you to an emergency room. That doesn't mean they're going to stay or walk in that mindset. They might roll you out in the parking lot and keep right on going. And I say that intentionally because that happens. So our coverage to be able to cover what is going in and out of the emergency rooms, to be able to finish coverage to where when you leave the city, our commercial areas covered. Those are going to be important. What I'm not discussing here and what is kind of a third-party venue going back to our intersections. Let me, for example, take this intersection here, Highway 12 in Louisville, major big intersection. We are working with our third parties and trying to do work out together with city engineering on being able to network with them on placing cameras at their intersections or accessing, trying to videotape their camera systems at these intersections. But it's highly dependent upon multiple parties, not just the city of Starkville. And so all of you know and recognize when you have a change in leaderships, change in dynamics, change in priorities, and it could be very costly for us if we don't really network those comprehensive plans like we need to. To go back on the proposed sites, what we do feel comfortable with is we're covering a lot of our commercial areas, we're covering gaps, we're covering parking lots, where we feel as though there's going to be potential activity based off of what we know and what we have seen. Brandon, do you have, that's it on the slides, correct? On the proposed?
Downtown and 182.
Okay, downtown and 182, yeah, okay, thank you. So for board members, this is already in play with our, and I don't want to get too heavy into engineering side of the house, Joel might be able to speak to that, but this is areas that we're going to already have coverage on for saturation up and down 182 in our downtown area. So we're starting to get some of that intersection coverage there. We do feel very strongly, though, that there's going to be a need if we can get coverage on these intersections, especially third-party feedback from our Attorney General's office as well as Mississippi Archives. Third-party is different in charge rates of what you charge for the average citizen, and our charge rate should be able to help supplement some of our costs. Also, we have, I think in the minutes from the board many, many years ago before my time, we have revenue generated from our accidents. That could help to somewhat substantiate for some of the camera costs. But our proposed cameras, we feel fills the gap, provides coverage for our entire city, and it goes back to a belief that everyone has a right to feel safely where they live, work, learn, play, and worship. I'll turn it over to Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I appreciate that. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board.
Joel gets to deliver the tough news.
Yeah, this is how we make this happen. But, we do need to talk about the investment, how this comes about. We have a really great idea about that because we've been doing it for a little over 5 years now. So, and it has been a group effort. Police department, IT department, Starkville Utilities is an integral player. And now, as Chief alluded to, Mr. Burnett and Chris Williams with engineering department are really bringing some interesting things to the table with our ability to pull fiber down the 182 corridor in downtown. That's really going to open up some new measures. So it's a really coordinated effort, a lot of parties involved, and we appreciate their commitment to that as well.
Including Joel, our business community that is stepped
That's
up.
right, very much so. And Chief also mentioned some of the business community in the Cotton District, and now it's spread, the word has spread, and people are really excited about it. They see the value in it. So I think it's a great tool, and it takes a lot of moving parts, a lot of coordination, and we're really appreciative to have all the team members pulling in the same direction on this. But down to the nitty gritty of the cost. So because we do have a great idea of what this is gonna cost since we've done it before, I can tell you each one of these camera units that you see on the pole is about $5,000. And so those enclosures with the blinking lights and the Starkville Police Department logo on there, and it's give or take. Some of them are cellularly backhauled and some of them are fiber. It's slightly different, but they all hover around $5,000 today. They probably won't go down, but today that's about what we're shooting for. And we also assume about a 5-year life. Well, these are ruggedized outdoor enclosures, but they are outside in the Mississippi heat and the rain and freezing. So we've had them implemented for a little over 5 years now, so we've got a good case study. We're not seeing a lot of mass failures, but we are starting to see some of the older ones get a little less reliable. So we're going to kind of make that 5-year life cycle plan into what we're proposing here. And the other thing we have to think about too is connectivity. So each one of these deployments has a connectivity cost, has getting the data where it needs to go. And so that's about $520 per year per location. And then another big thing that we really need to consider as we go forward is storage. So we keep these feeds for 30 days. So we're taking 1080p video, 10 frames a second. We're keeping it for 30 days so we can reference it within that time frame. And if it becomes evidentiary, then we pull it down and we keep it for as long as we need to. So we're heavily invested with storage when we do this. And for instance, a lot of people talk about MDOT cameras. They have a huge deployment. They don't store anything. Theirs are just live streaming. They don't want to store anything. We do. And so we keep it for 30 days and we have to take that into account. Now I say here most of these units have 4 feeds. So you can see these are some of our units on the factory floor here. You can see that disc there. It includes 4 cameras inside that. So there's 4 cameras that can be moved around the perimeter of that disc as we need to cover different areas. But each one of those cameras, each one of those feeds counts as a feed. So multiply that 300 times 4 for just about every implementation we have. So about $1,200 per year per implementation. And so those are the numbers we start with. And so Chief had a proposal here for our next phase of coverage. And so that includes 36 cameras. And we baked in 5 ready reserve because, as I said, some of the original ones are starting to become end of life. These things don't grow on trees, so we have to make sure we get in the pipeline. We want to have a few of them ready to deploy at any time. So we took that 36 proposed locations and added a few to them to get what we need to replace as needed. So this is the total cost of 41 cameras times $5,000, $205,000, one-time expenditure, at least for 5 years and possibly more. The connectivity, again, we extrapolate out the number of, it would be 36 locations times the 540 would be 19,440. And then the storage, that's 4 feeds times $300 times the number of implementations. So we're looking at $43,200 a year. And so that $19,440 and $43,200 will go on in perpetuity. And it goes up if you add more implementation. So you have an initial cost, $205,000, and then some ongoing costs as well. Our proposal is this. If we are able to proceed, we'd like to do this in 2 phases. Year one, year 2. And mainly that's because the burn rate of getting these cameras delivered. So ordering 20 cameras, and I've been in touch with our vendors, how quickly could you do this if we did this, if we asked for it tomorrow? And they said that's about right. So and that's how many we can consume too. Just get hung up, get connected, get figured, all that stuff. So we think it would logically break down into 2 years. And so this will be year 1. We get 20 cameras, and that would be $100,000. Connect the connectivity, the video storage, and one other thing I did want to mention is we've also factored into this the cost of eventually 8 license plate readers, LPRs. You've probably heard a lot about these. And so that's a little bit of a different payment paradigm. These are about $2,500 per year per unit, and that's all inclusive. That the company comes and deploys them, installs them, maintains them. If they're broken, they replace it. And so it's an ongoing cost. You don't buy the hardware, you don't own it, but you just keep using it as long as you want to. So we've incorporated that into this too. It's a different kind of camera than the surveillance camera. It gives you a different angle. It's mounted a lot lower to the street. It gives you a really solid view of the license plate. It captures it. It checks it against a national database. It can tell you if a known, bad actor with a license plate in that database has just entered your area. So very effective and just a different sort of use case than the surveillance. The surveillance video shows you what happened, who was involved, what happened, how to go down. And so they complement each other. And then we move into the year 2, we finish out the proposed number of cameras. That's another $105,000 for the hardware. And then our connectivity and video storage would bump up because we're consuming more feeds, we're storing more feeds. And so you would have that 19,440 in perpetuity as long as we had those, and that 43,200 going forward recurring in perpetuity. And if you had 4 more license plate readers for a total of 8, you would have $20,000 a year in license plate readers, and that would be an ongoing cost as well. So $205,000 outlay over 2 years, and then the 19, 43, and 20 continuing for as long as we have this system implemented.
Okay, and you've got, the license plate readers, are they mobile or are they fixed?
They're fixed because if you attach them to a vehicle, Mayor, vehicles break down and you're not operational versus a fixed location. You can change those fixed locations.
That's what I was asking.
Yes, ma'am. You
Changing
can
the
change
fixed
them, they're
locations.
not as
Okay.
permanent, but they're better to be fixed, operating 24/7 than only operating when the officers operate.
Okay, so we've got 5 years that we're currently, how many did we put in place about 5 years ago? I mean, we're at a point now where we would assume we're going to start having some
I think
failures.
we did, it was under 10 for that first implementation. We have 34 locations currently, and that's built over time. And like I said, they've continued to be solid. We've had a couple that are showing their age. We've had, in fact, one at Glen and Montgomery is one of the original ones, and the one out here at City Hall is one of the original ones. Many of those that were in some of the most visible locations were some of our original implementations. We've probably got 5 or 6, I think, of that vintage. And again, they're not failing in mass, but we just want to prepare because they just are as with everything that you order these days, any hardware that you order, there is a lead time, a significant lead time.
Okay, so basically annually, you're looking at what, about 100 grand
That's right.
of recurring, ongoing costs?
Yes, ma'am.
And so every time once you make the initial investment of 100,000 and then another 100,000,
That's right.
then you would just be a matter of rotating through. And Chief, do you think that covers where you need to be covered as we stand right now?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Unless the city looks forward to expanding further, I think that gives us adequate coverage, comprehensive coverage for all of our citizens, based on the information we know at this time. It absolutely gives us.
Okay, so that, I'll get, in just a second, I got one more. But that doesn't talk to the person who would be monitoring these. So are you looking at 24/7? Are you looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? What are you looking at for
I
monitoring?
think the most adequate, if we make this investment, I think the most adequate would be a 24/7 approach. Again, given our discussions of what occurred at our park just last Sunday night, our schedules might not be conducive to what takes place on a Sunday night at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Those cameras and the awareness of that, it's impossible to predict when crime is going to take place, but if you have people ready for when it does. So that's why I would advocate for a 24/7 approach rather than just in peak call approaches.
So we would need to factor in, yet again, to make this work, we would need to factor in personnel.
Yes, sir.
3?
I think that right now our numbers were 1.5 to 2. But I apologize. Let me categorize. I've got Lee Upchurch listed as a sports staff technician. What I'd like to do is cross him over for the full time for advocacy. So you're correct, Mayor. That would be 3. My numbers were off when I was running.
Okay. Alderman Rupp?
Yeah, great presentation, by the way, both one of the best we've had here. I have a question. The storage time of 30 days, is that an arbitrary number? Does it need to be longer? Is 21 days is effective? I don't know how all that evolves when you're investigating, so why that number?
That is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go.
That is mandated by the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. So that is a rule that they have imposed upon us. If you record, then you must keep it for 30 days.
Archives and History,
I know that sounds.
the premier law enforcement agency in the state.
That sounds
They're
right.
the premier record-keeping agency
So,
in the state.
but what, if you could wave a magic wand, what would the storage time be, just out of curiosity? What makes sense to you from your experience?
Well, I think in 7 to 10 days, if we get it, we're good, but sometimes we're notified of events, delayed reporting, we're running into that now with other institutions where we're trying to figure out what is on record to go back and review. So I think that answer specifically is not going to be in our hands. I do think that that's going to be in Mississippi Archives because of that kind of state expectation. And if we run short, don't want to run longer. Obviously, we're very, very comfortable with the 30-day mark, but most events take place where we hear about something within a 10-day time frame. That would be more my realistic number.
So 15 days or 21, if somehow archives and history softened that wouldn't hurt you, and it would save us 25 to 40% of those costs.
That's correct. If we could, I feel very comfortable with those days, if that is doable. Yes, sir.
You have some pull with archives and history?
I know somebody who's on.
I think it is certainly willing to run it's worth running the traps on.
Okay. Are you done? Alderman Norman?
Joe, when y'all send it to storage, do y'all send everything to storage or just what is actually activity on it?
We said, well, these are getting activity all the time, so it's really.
It's everything. I didn't know, because sometimes you can record just motion.
Right.
I didn't know.
And Alderwoman Moreland, to bring up also, that I think is very important for people that are listening now, right now, our auditing and what we do is all crime-based, has to be case-based. And our auditing of our real-time intelligence center occurs often twice a week. Who's on the system, what are they doing, and what was the case related to the system? Again, our deeply devoted to protecting constitutional rights is a key ingredient in this system to be able to move forward.
Anyone else? Vice Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, thank you very much. And Chief, I've been looking forward to this presentation with great anticipation. Let me say, an excellent job. You and the team did a very excellent job. Mayor, I'm very impressed with this. And your entire team does a good job. Ms. McCord with the DARE program that we rarely see, your Assistant Chief, Mr. Clemens, and I must say this because this is one of the primary reasons I'm here today. Mayor, I am of the clear opinion that we need to do whatever it takes to support this investment that the Chief is respectfully requesting for us to do. As to the storage time period, we as members of this governing body need to give complete and total deference to the Chief. He knows best how long the storage time needs to be. Certainly we're all conservative, wanting to save money, but the Chief, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for this city, is in the best position to know the storage time for evidentiary purposes. It's amazing how he can pull that up in the clearest view for crime purposes, evidentiary purposes, and to protect the overall safety and best interest of our community. And as I conclude, Mayor, I must say that this is so extremely necessary. We hear on the news in some cities almost every second of the day, in neighboring cities like Columbus and other places. You know, it's tiring, but we don't hear that here from Starkville because we have the leadership, we have the cameras, we have the police officers, we accept our officers, and the Assistant Chief, of course, you and all the team and the Chief do an excellent job, and we just want to, and it's just a great passion. I'm not taking up time necessarily, but I must say, because of one of the primary reasons I'm here, but we got to continue to keep our streets safe. We got to continue to keep our community safe. I hear from, I go to the courts, people coming to town, business leaders, talking about how safe our community. They come to Kroger, they come here to shop. They want to be safe, and that's what we're doing. So whatever the Chief thinks we need to support it. I mean, I'm not aware of any taxpayer, regardless of where they live in this city, regardless of the demographical area, they support this safe city. No one has expressed to me any opposition in the community, and that's a great quality of life, Mayor, and I'm just so glad that you scheduled this today. The Chief presented this with great class, great professionalism, just like his entire department does, and I'm just, Honorable Budget Chair, I'm just excited to see this. Whatever way I'll speak for the vice mayor, I'm gonna close, chief. Whatever way we need to go about funding this, you have my complete support. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this for the record today. I know we have the generals here. I've been in this almost 31 years. When I say something, I mean it, and I mean what I say. So if this camera system involves a tax increase, I'm gonna vote for it. Because it's worth it. It supports lives, it saves lives. It lets the criminals know that we're not gonna put up with you. If you wanna commit crime, you need to exit our jurisdiction. It's just as clear as that. So if it requires a tax increase, I'm gonna vote for a tax increase to support this, if that is necessary. It may not be necessary. I'm not saying it is, Honorable Budget Chair, Honorable Mayor, but Mayor, I appreciate the time, but I'm just so excited about this. I mean, this is great excitement to know that we're gonna continue for Starkville to be a safe community, zero tolerance for crime, and great apprehension and accountability. Mayor, I yield.
All right, thank you. Alderman Rupp, you
Yeah.
had something else?
I made the assumption when I said if we cut back, say, a week in time, that would be 25% of the video storage cost, but I'm making a leap of faith because I have no idea how much, or if any, that it impacts the cost of that. Could you find that out for me to see if it's worth trying?
You're thinking about it exactly how it does cut back. I mean, you can either pay for higher resolution, higher frame rate, or, you know, we kind of hit the sweet spot. It's 1080p, it's high definition. We have a 10 frame per second, which is, I would love a little bit more, but, you know, for what we were prepared to pay and invest at the time and how long we wanted to keep it, that's where we are. But it does, those sliders do move about like you're thinking. Like, so if you keep less, it costs less.
Well, one of the things, in order for us to get a clear picture, is we need to know what those 3 personnel would cost. So I need, please, if you could get some idea. I assume Mr. Ashford would help you understand what that value of that position would be, but if we need 3 of them, then let's make sure we add that to what we're looking at for an overall cost structure.
So
Alderman
3,
Sistrunk.
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
3 in addition to Mr. Upchurch, or
3 total.
2 in addition to Mr. Up?
3
So
total.
2 need, okay. That's what I was hearing, I wanted to be sure.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Alderman Beatty.
Chief, what's an officer, rough, pay, benefits, salary?
Can I take that?
Yeah. 50?
Well, this is a different skill set.
It is a different skill set, so I'm
50.
kind of swagging, but I'm gonna say somewhere between, with benefits and everything, 70 to 80.
All right, so we're talking about, let's just say low side, 70 per person, times 3,
To 2. He's already got 1.
140. What's the corporation cost of that? 80 a year? Somebody said 100,000, but the operational.
I rounded up 100.
Okay. So we're talking about 250, 240, 250, something like that, to do this.
And then you've got the one-time purchase of those, and then keeping backups.
You'll have it, all right, the capital purchase,
Yeah.
this will be budgeted in every year,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Anyone?
I do have a
Alderman
question. Okay, so the fuchsia system, which I know is totally different than what y'all are asking for today, but how many of those intersections do citizens or is fuchsias on those intersections? Like the system? And would you rather have, I guess my question is, fuchsias are actually city-owned cameras? I'm looking at like a cost standpoint.
Both.
Both.
We want our own, because
Okay.
that way, that's what that monitoring is for.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
it
it's
uses
public
the
property.
software that allows the city cameras to work with private entities, to work with anybody. It's just kind of a glue, if you will, that brings it all in, and that's what our real-time intelligence center works off of. But hardware-wise, yes, I mean, the city, we're totally independent of third-party
Reliance.
lines,
Oh.
and it's just, it's a big investment to rely on third-party entities that might change their position from year to year.
And actually, what I want to say is, because everybody pushed back on the other idea, this is a better idea. This gives us more and more control, so that, you know, the second iteration is better than the first. So I think that's wonderful. That's a really good thing. If there are no more questions of the chief and Joel, we have one more little fun thing that I asked to happen. As you know, we're looking at that SS4A grant, right? Which is the roundabout at Garrett and 12. And so Cody, and where's Daniel? Daniel hiding? Daniel did a really cool thing. And so this is the last location for, or the next location for a camera. So you can see the video. Daniel created this himself. This is the roundabout proposed that Cody submitted. So my segue is that a camera will go in that spot.
That's it.
That's it.
We're all pulling on the same rope
Yeah.
of safety. So for the engineering department, this is safety from a traffic perspective, but could coalesce with the camera. And so it's an update for the board. You guys approved us to apply for this grant probably a month ago. We applied yesterday. It was the due date. I'm going to send the board the narrative for that grant this afternoon.
Can you show the nighttime version? Okay.
I don't know if I sent that one there.
Oh, did you not send that one? Oh, shoot. Well, Daniel did a nighttime version and a daytime version. It was really cool.
So I'll send the narrative to the board so you can see, but this is a grant with a plot portion and by the end of the year, and certainly would be an opportunity to partner with the chief. And I would say as an aside, as you've heard from the presentation, we've really done a lot of collaboration between departments, and I'm proud of the team for working together on these kind of things. So anyway, this is kudos to Daniel. I had nothing to do with the industry.
Mr. President, also mentioned MDOT submitted a letter of recommendation with this application, with our application, correct?
They did.
So then, I would say it's an endorsement, but it's certainly strong.
We had a bunch of letters of support
We
that came
got
from
the
the community.
consensus ahead of time, and then have the letter, so we're good to go.
Yeah, it was really cool. But anyway, I thought Daniel did a great job on putting that together and adding that to the submission. So I wanted to give kudos to the guys who worked on it. So, all right.
Before we leave,
Yes,
can
sir.
you get an update, let Bob Sistrunk give us an update on the library and air conditioning?
That's actually part of the agenda, so yes. All right, well, we will now move into the agenda, guys. And Chief, all the folks, Joel, all of you that worked on it, thank you very much. It was excellent. It was exactly what I had hoped we would come out with, so thank you. Well done, well done. Okay, a couple of sets of minutes. Mr. Huskinson, a thumbs up on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Harden, can we get a consent for those? All right, thank you very much. We're going to have 3 public hearings. Mr. Haviland, anything about those that would be particular for us to know, please?
2 of the special exceptions of the same applicant and the pieces of property are directly next to each other, and that's just to take down the existing structures and bring in duplex structures on each lot. The existing structures need to be repaired, and they're also in the floodplain, so the new structure will be out of the floodplain.
Okay.
And then the third special exception is for accessory dwelling unit on the same lot as a primary residence.
Okay, and all 3, these 3 will obviously have to have a public hearing, so nothing for us to put on from a consent perspective, but I just want to make sure we had kind of an idea, and that information will obviously be in your packet. And then we've got first public hearing for amending the Unified Development Code, and I am going to ask you to go over some of the highlights of what you're going to be asking.
Yeah, I'll get more detail at the board meeting, but just some of the basic stuff, like the big ticket items. One of the first ones is for the Historic Preservation Commission, we're going to reduce the number of members from 7 to 5. We just had problems filling that commission, and we've talked with the state, they're fine with us doing that, so we're going to proceed with that. Then the big item is revamping the code enforcement stuff, how it's processed, and then how it's handled in this report. So it's just, we'll get more detail in the presentation of what we currently do with what we're proposing.
Okay.
And then a lot of the other stuff is just kind of tweaking here and there. When we have uses that are allowed by special exception in certain zoning districts, it wasn't clear on what kind of dimensional standards, development standards they would have to follow, so we're kind of correcting that here with special exception. So between the code enforcement and the use stuff, that takes up the majority of this.
Okay, all right, and we'll have plenty of time to do it again. It's all right, thank you very much. And again, that will be a first public hearing. All right, and then under mayor's business, we have the Juneteenth, Starkville Juneteenth Committee for Unity, and it exceeded the normal cost, so that would be subject for the board to approve. We still have some issues in terms of exactly what they're going to do, and Chief Yarborough is going to help Ms. Haddock's iron all that out to see. They're wanting to do fireworks, but because of the construction at the park, the locations are limited, so he's going to take a look at that and see if that's something that they can do this year, or perhaps we would have to wait till next year based on the construction. So if you want to provide a consent for that, pending the elements of Chief Yarborough's, okay, consent for that then? Consent. All right. Then under board business, we've got a resolution for the delegates. Alderman Vaughn, you and Alderman Beatty have been delegate and alternate delegates. Were y'all willing to serve again?
I don't
You're both going, right? So, Ms. Harden, if you could put names into that, we'll just go ahead and put that in for the agenda for the board meeting, okay? And then authorization, this is, Alderman Sistrunk, I'll just let you roll with the whole thing.
Just roll with this here. We have, the city clerk has worked diligently to make sure that replacing the air conditioner at the library meets the requirements to be considered an emergency purchase, which will save us 6 to 8 weeks, depending on timing, for getting things advertised and bid and all that sort of thing. Unfortunately, this is not one of those things that you just run down to wherever and pick one up and plop it in. So Monday, the engineering group that is working on the specs and reviewing the electrical requirements and all that sort of thing will be in town and will be providing within a week or so the specs that are necessary for purchasing the new unit. After that, my hope is that they will talk to 2 or 3 different vendors, installers, and get the best possible deal that works with our situation, and then we'll move forward with a purchase and installation at that point. Even if they have specs and all that sort of thing in a week or 2 weeks, the purchase and install time could take 4 to 6 weeks. Just finding a unit that's in stock, finding somebody that's got staff available to send out and do the installation, that sort of thing. So although it is an emergency and we're working with all due deliberate speed, it just won't go any faster than it goes. So we're controlling the things that we can control and hoping that the market cuts us a break on this in terms of finding somebody to do the work.
And I guess the point was that until we get the details associated with the actual purchase, the emergency purchase, we can't
leave
act
this
on
blank
it.
for now.
Yeah, we can't act on it on the agenda.
Yeah.
We would continue this to the June board unless something happens.
Unless by Tuesday, we have something to fill in the blanks, but
I
otherwise.
thought that, you mean the price?
Well,
Price and time frame?
Specs.
Yeah,
Specs.
specs for it.
Yeah, and a quote, yeah.
So we need more,
Well, they-
we need more detail.
Specs is
They're gonna
part.
be with two of y'all, well, you'll see, both of y'all will see them Monday when they're in town.
This is Philip in the
Yeah,
libraries to
Philip is-
manage. So
is managing it.
If we can get that
But
information by Tuesday or
I'll
something.
put a note on my calendar to call him and
I
say.
just speed up a little bit.
He ought to be really motivated.
I
That's his
was
place to
thinking-
work.
But the 15 and the 2-ton unit should be installed
Yes.
faster than that.
Oh, yes,
They will
they'll
have
have
The
some.
15th, they're already on.
They're
Yeah, they're being donated.
they're being purchased already and or.
TVA
Yeah.
has already contacted.
And that will provide a good bit of relief,
Yeah.
obviously.
Now, on this bigger unit, because we don't have any idea what's gonna total cost on it, but it's gonna be up there pretty good. We can get that out of emergency money till where we source that money from?
Ending fund balance, I guess.
No,
Go ahead.
Fund
Okay,
balance.
No.
okay.
We budgeted this year thinking that we were going to have a principal-only payment for the TIF for Aldi and the Aldi redevelopment. And it has not moved along quite as quickly as it had. So the $200,000 that we budgeted for that can be reclassified and used for this purchase. So
What if it goes
hopefully,
over that?
well, then we will talk about
Fund balance.
the rest of it. So.
I know somewhere in there.
Well,
Okay.
Mayor, and I won't belabor too much, but that electrical service, that building, now.
That sits on the pole that belongs to the library, which Mr. Kemp
I mean, it's
was,
just-
was sharing with me. So I'm not sure what we can do about that. Mr. Kemp, do you have any additional
Yeah, we investigated it
insight?
and have a few alternatives I'd be happy to share with you, get you there on site if you're eligible.
But they're also costly.
Yeah, the long and
But
short.
but to replace that pole and put service from another pole underground, which is like electrical and/or all other, the cable.
Pretty significant conduits that run from that pole into the library. They certainly could be rerouted to the new pole that would be at the customer's expense. The pole is owned by the library. It could be replaced, and I have some ballpark costs that I can share with you on each of those different scenarios.
I will say this, that's a public building, It's in the middle of town. It's in the middle of what I think is probably arguably one of the busiest intersections in the middle of town, and it's right at the front end of that project. And it's, for some reason or other, it wasn't noticeable, but it's noticeable now. So I would think that we want to try, if we can, build in the money to do something with that.
Let's
to
get
get
the air
those crepe
conditioner
myrtles.
I'm
first.
talking about that, but we've got budget time coming up. And this will be something you build into your budget for the
Right.
next budget.
Right.
So, okay.
Well, and we've also got that intersection, so I don't want to do anything prior to that intersection being done.
Which one, you talking about East?
Montgomery.
No,
Montgomery intersection,
All right.
yeah.
But I mean, that's, it's sticking out like a sore thumb now, so.
It does, and I'm hoping crepe myrtles will grow fast, so. Engineering, Mr. Burnett, there you are. Okay, so this is the Old Mayhew Road improvements, and I want to brag on them, the engineering department in and of itself, because they came in within, their estimate was within $10,000, I believe, of the final amount that we got. So I thought that's pretty remarkable on a project this large. So well done. So go ahead and give us a little overview of the Old Mayhew project.
Sure, so this is, like the mayor said, very close to the estimate. This amount with this contractor would realign the roadway, which is probably the catalyst for the project to make the intersection of East Lee and
Can we
Mayhew
pull that up,
safer.
Joel? Can we pull up the, yes, there we go. Okay, so those are just the numbers, not the pictures? Okay.
Not to it.
right,
We can
that's
show it
all
on Google Earth.
That's okay,
Everyone's
that's
familiar
all
with the skew, so we'll fix that skew. We've met with all the impacted property owners, and they were all very happy with the project. So this will realign the roadway to make it safer, as well as reclaim Old Mayhew from end to end. So you've all driven Old Mayhew, you know the condition. We will walk away with a brand new road from the bottom up. So we hope to finish it this year.
That's a massive,
When you said-
massive project.
When you say this year, calendar year,
Calendar, I'm sorry, yes ma'am, calendar year.
my brain
Yes.
goes
She
elsewhere.
goes fiscal.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and so, again, I'm very pleased that the numbers came in where we thought they would. That's an excellent job, and it'll be nice to have that entire project done. Safer and certainly easier to travel for everyone, including the smart bus and all the people who live there, so. And then amending the 2024 street improvement listing, can you call those out off the top of your head?
Can get pretty close. So the background is every year, it seems that from the time we set the plan to the time we put asphalt down, there's some minor changes. This could be to utility issues we found. It could be, for example, on Washington Street, there was a failed storm drain that happened after we had approved that street. We don't want to overlay a street that needs a storm drain to be replaced. So most of these are minor. There were a couple that the condition was worse than we anticipated, and they were slated for some of the preservation techniques. We pulled those off to wait an additional year or two until they're ready for an overlay. So the primary addition is North Montgomery for a mill and overlay. This road was originally slated for 2024. It was removed about a year ago because we thought the SS4A project would potentially fund some improvements. There's not been enough fatalities or injuries on the road to qualify for that funding. So knowing that that funding is not going to pay for any improvements, we want to go ahead and address it this year before it gets worse. There's a couple more years, it gets much worse, and then we're spending quite a bit more money. So that's the most substantive change. The rest are very minor, and there are descriptions in each of the streets of why we made those decisions.
I think that y'all have done a really good job on making those adjustments based on the circumstances involved. So.
And it's all still within the original approved budget. We did not
Yes.
increase the budgetary requirements to do those
All
things.
right. Any reason not to do consent on these?
Consent.
All right, claims docket, we know. The financials, anything about the financial statements? Consent for that one?
Consent.
And then renewing the property vehicle and equipment insurance services, anything, is that going up, down, staying the same?
It's going to go up a little bit, our overall assets, and it's primarily used to be newer vehicles, and the total addition of the new parks is going from 50.8 million to 59 million.
Okay.
Assets for cities.
But the incremental
It's going up about 10,000.
10,000, okay, all right. Consent for that one? Okay. The fire department, we have attending a hazmat class, consent for that one?
Consent.
And HR, Mr. Ashford, all of these are replacements, well, I take that back, number one is not. Number one is a recommendation of the discipline that Chief Ballard put on, so consent for that, okay? And then the others are all replacement positions. Okay. Can we do consent for those? Okay. Looks like we had a lot of positions to fill. And then under parks, we've got a low quote for the resurfacing of J.L. King and George Evans.
Consent.
Consent for that one, thank you. And, yes, ma'am?
Is this the same company that did the pickleball courts? Different kind?
They are a different company.
Okay.
They came in substantially.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
I was just curious.
But considering, I think we had an issue with quality the last time when we did our basketball courts. These are not the same folks who did that one, are they?
No.
Do you know? Okay. Then approving permission to advertise for the culvert, which we hope will come in under the budget we have an expectation for. Consent for that one?
Consent.
Advertising the lowest quote for 2 golf carts.
Consent.
Mr., were you able to get
Yeah.
with anyone on the golf carts?
So I did, they only deal with high-end lithium batteries. And
Okay.
There was some miscommunication that we went through the sponsorship.
Okay, all right, so consent for these? These are gas, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Consent.
all right, thank you. And then sports for pitching mounds, these are the pitching mounds that allow us to utilize the softball fields? Consent for that?
Are we able to get those from the company directly at a lower?
It would have saved a tiny bit to get,
We haven't gotten any confirmation if we can order direct from the company, but generally they're not. We can look into it.
Okay, well, if something changes, let us know, but we can put this on.
it would save
Yes,
a tiny
ma'am?
bit, but now so slow to come down.
I would like to note that on here, I've got the 4, and he submitted one after I had prepared the packet yesterday afternoon, asking for 5.
Golf carts?
No, pitching.
Oh, pitching mounds.
Pitching mounds.
Okay,
So I don't know.
So these are lightweight mounts that are movable with 2 people opposed to the current ones, the older style, which are like 300 pounds apiece. So we need these to be able to get them up out of the fields. Some of the rubbers have been, there's a bolt on it that works there, some brakes, so having the extra ones to move around is good. There's one for adults, older kids that we need for the Babe Ruth tournament. So, and then we're gonna be repurposing some of our other ones to the sports bikes,
okay, so the 4 is 19, so 5 would be,
23 something.
did he send that in?
Yeah, late yesterday afternoon. I can-
Okay, well, let's then leave this off until we get the actual information, okay? We'll leave off consent, I mean, and, make that change when you get it. And then a bagger for Evergreen AG, whatever that is.
Green Ag, it goes on to one of our export
Mowers?
Mowers that
Okay.
will bag debris into it instead of cutting it up and using it, spreading it out.
Okay, all right, consent for that?
Consent.
Okay. And then last but not least, we have utilities. Mr. Kemp, anything in particular about this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Your generators, any question from, this is about getting the generator for the admin building?
This is funded primarily through a grant through the state.
Okay. All right, consent for that one. And
Consent.
then you've got emergency authorization for,
All for the influent
Okay.
station of wastewater.
Consent.
consent for that. And change order to add, how many days? 154 days?
154 days.
Yeah.
and
Oh, that's the,
this
yes,
is the
okay.
final pay estimate for
Yeah.
the
And it is closing it out in its entirety, right?
Closing it out.
So we have had a very successful second and third project, so Pleasant Acres, followed by Green Oaks and Rolling Hills, and so really, really glad to see those happen. And moving on to number 4,
Right.
Which
Okay.
is,
Consent.
which is
Well, I guess we
Fairgrounds.
kind of finished,
Well, Main Street?
Main Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
well, that's kind of different than an entire subdivision, but Fairgrounds next?
We'll be rolling out, if you want to look at neighborhood specifics, we'll be rolling out capital improvement plan recommendations.
good.
Okay. Okay, consent for that one, and then
Consent.
last but not least, sole source. Consent for that one?
Consent.
All right, that concludes it. So thank you, everyone, we appreciate it. Again, thanks for the presentation, guys. Okay. So we're out. Okay.